Larry, let's talk a little bit about the tax-efficient estate plan. And with us today is Carrie Renner, and she's an estate planning attorney. Carrie, I'm going to pose this first question to you. Is there a way to avoid paying taxes on an estate?
Yes, absolutely, Kim. When we look at taxes when somebody dies, estate tax is what comes to mind. And we commonly get questions, do we have an inheritance tax? Does the beneficiary receiving money have to pay a tax on that? In Minnesota, no, we don't have an inheritance tax, but we do have another type of a death tax, which is a estate tax. And the difference is who pays that tax. With an inheritance tax, it's the beneficiary who pays. With an estate tax, it's the estate of the deceased person who pays. And through various estate planning strategies, we can minimize that tax or even eliminate it altogether.
Okay. So give us a sense of how you go about doing that.
Sure. So estate tax happens at both the state level in Minnesota as well as at the federal level. The federal level, their tax is a hefty one. They make that planning relatively easy, but it does take action on the part of somebody who has recently lost a loved one. These tax planning opportunities are generally available to married couples, not parents and children or unmarried partners. But at the federal level, we have something called portability. Everybody gets an exemption. It's the amount you get to die with and not have to pay a tax on. In Minnesota, at the federal level, the IRS has a pretty large number right now. It's over 13 million per person. And with the portability rules that the IRS has, when one spouse dies, the other can simply file a tax form that says, I want to elect portability. I want to elect to use my deceased spouse's share so that when I die, I effectively have two shares, or $26 to $27 million that can be passed. That's relatively easy, but it's not automatic. So it's really important to get professional advice when you've lost a spouse and do that soon. At the state level, we need to generally look at trusts to help mitigate that or eliminate that estate tax. And that's usually done through a combination of strategies, one of them being a trust that allows to effectively double the $3 million exemption that each person gets in Minnesota. But unfortunately, Minnesota doesn't make it quite as easy as the IRS with portability. We have to get a little bit creative with trust planning in order to double that exemption.
So, Carrie, let me ask you about the idea of people who maybe want to give some of their legacy away while they're living. Does that help with taxes?
Absolutely. That can generate a lot of benefits. Tax planning, one of them. Also just the joy of giving, the joy of watching your beneficiaries benefit from these and not waiting until you're gone. From a tax planning standpoint, getting things out of your estate is always beneficial. Nobody wants to die too rich. We all want, in Minnesota, we all hope that our estate is $3 million or less. Now, that doesn't mean we don't want to necessarily make more than that during our lifetimes, but we have to be strategic with how we mitigate that tax when we die, and giving things away while we're still living can be one of the ways to do that.
Okay. And that's something that you guys can help people sort of set up a plan and work through that.
Sure, definitely. So giving things away can look differently to different people. Sometimes people say, I just want to make a large Christmas gift every year or annual gift every year. And my kids are old enough to receive it, or the beneficiaries I've chosen are old enough. Other times they want to use a trust to make that gift. Now we're talking about irrevocable trusts. And this could be an example of perhaps a beneficiary not quite being old enough to receive that gift.
Yeah, Kim, if I may add to that too, if kids are listening, that it's called a gift. So just because you heard about a gift doesn't mean mom and dad have to gift. It's called a gift. They can give a gift. I just had this last week, an email from one of my clients saying, and it was an email. So, there's no real personality in an email or a text, even though I think my kids think there is, or the younger generation does. And I could tell, she goes, my kids could use the money now. And is it possible, or do I have it available? All those questions that people ask. And it was strategic. They could use it now. They have plenty of money. They're not running out of money. And it factored into their long-term plan. Now, with that said, you can give up to $18,000. There's different rules. I want to note, too, there's different rules on taxes in different states. Minnesota is a highly taxed state, and that's why a lot of listeners may be considering moving to one of those other states, which I won't mention, and I understand, but hopefully we're moving in the right direction. If this estate tax discussion from a federal or state level is also ringing in your ears, there might be strategies which we do work with a lot. It's called charitable remainder trusts or qualified charitable distributions with those IRAs, with RMDs. So there's certain things you can do, and then I even add to that, irrevocable life insurance trusts or ILITs can be highly effective if that's part of your long-term legacy plan as well, if your estate is taxable at the federal or state level. So like always, I encourage people to look at all the options, not just some of the options, but all of them. That's where it can be so important, especially if you're looking at, passing it on and giving it all to the kids or to charities rather than the federal government or the state government. I think most people would agree on that.
Larry, you can also set up like educational trusts for your grandkids, correct? Or
there's all kinds of different tools out there. There really, really is. So, let me ask you, if you're listening, are you confident your estate plan is going to, is it going to reach your goals for legacy planning, minimize those unnecessary taxes? Do you have a strategy? Do you not have a strategy? And by the way, just hoping or wishing you had a strategy is not truly a strategy. It takes, in many cases, people would say a written plan, well thought out, well monitored. And that's part of our process here at Haven. It's not set it and leave it. It's life happens. Life's calendar doesn't always cooperate with our calendar, and things change. So goes your estate plan.
So in other words, don't write it on the back of a napkin and just stick it in an envelope and says open when I die.
Well, save the ink.
Not suggesting that.
Just save the ink. We laugh about that, but in the good old days, if you're listening, in the good old days, if you whispered something, that's probably going to be good enough. A handshake actually meant something. I would like to think it still means something, but let's actually get it done in writing. Let's get a competent estate plan, a competent one. And a lot of Americans have not a competent one. A lot of them have no plan whatsoever. And that's not going to bear well. And if you're listening, and I get this quite often, well, I'm just going to let the kids fight. Is that really the legacy you're looking to leave?
Yeah. And do you really want an attorney to take most of that when it's all said and done, right? When they're fighting and they have to get attorneys and so on and so forth. Nothing against attorneys, Carrie, by the way. I'm married to one, so I have a great appreciation for you.
You're absolutely right. Somebody's going to win, and it's not going to be the family.
612-504-8400 is the number for Haven Financial Group. If any of this is ringing a bell to you, do you need a retirement plan? Is it time to start thinking about those golden years? And while you're doing it, how about an estate plan too, so that you don't have to worry about that? 612-504-8400 is the number. You can make a call, set up a free consultation, go in and see the folks at Haven Financial Group. Tell them you have a lot of interest in putting together an estate plan, and they'll take the steps that need to be taken to make sure that you can chat with Carrie and her team as well. The importance of your legacy beyond finances. That's what we're going to talk about when we come back right here on the Haven Financial Group Radio Show.